So what should you do if you cannot find the motivation to change your life? Hey folks, my name's Allie. Let's get started. I'm going to start this video just by kind of defining what I consider as positive motivation, and it's what most of us think of when we think of motivation. It's those skinny jeans that you haven't worn in 10 years because you kind of ballooned up a little bit, or it's the idea that you can wear a bikini to the beach, or it's the idea of going out in the dating world and not being self-conscious. So it's just, those things that we really desire. So ever since I was a fat kid, I spent my entire life wishing I was slimmer. And I'm sure that if you struggle with your weight or weight loss or weight maintenance, that you have the same kind of desires. You want to wear a bikini to the beach, or you want to slim down for your wedding, or you want to impress your crush, or even just find clothes more easily when you go to the store. So that's kind of what we think of when we think of motivation, is just these things that we'll be able to do once we lose the weight and once we get down to a size that we're happy with and that we feel healthier with. I kind of noticed that I was wishing for these things for so long. I mean, all of my life I was overweight before I was about 25. But I never did anything to actually lose the weight. I never stuck with any diet programs before I found keto. I never, went exercising consistently. I had the desire there to be less heavy and to look better and to feel healthier, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to stick with any sort of actual program, and it wasn't enough definitely to maintain any sort of lifestyle after. So while I'm sure that for some people out there that those positive motivations can kind of get you started or keep you on your weight loss journey or whatever, I think for most of us, we're kind of missing a part in between. So we want to look beautiful, we want to feel great, we want to, find love with a new body and everything. But what about the actual work that it takes to get there? Right, we want the reward, but we don't want to have to work for it. We don't want to have to change our eating style. We don't want to have to work out. We don't want to have to eat less or just better food overall. But we want, to feel good, and we want to look good too. So what we want for motivation is usually different than what we want to do to actually get there. And that's all the hard work. So what I think positive motivation really misses out on is the hard work aspect of it, that you've actually got to put in and like what you're doing. Now, I'm not saying you have to like every minute of it, but you should, for sustainability, at least be able to do without hating something like changing the way that you eat or exercising. So the issue with positive motivation, like just wanting to look nicer, or find a date or something, or wear smaller clothes sizes, is that you are missing the fact that you should want to make these changes and that they should be encouraging for you. So for this positive motivation, you're stuck between what you want and the work that you have to do to get there, but you don't want to do this. You really want this, but you really don't want to do that, and I know how that feels. The not wanting to do the thing was all of my other diets that I tried, veganism, paleo, slim fast, lean cuisine, South Beach, all the stuff, counting Weight Watchers points. I didn't want to do that to get to where I wanted to be. So I think for a lot of people, if they can't do the work to get to the good result, I think that positive motivation is not really going to help out so much. Like I said, all my life I wanted to be skinny. I wanted to feel better about myself. I wanted to, be a cheerleader and be able to be thrown in the air, but I couldn't do that when I was over 200 pounds in high school. So there's just, things that I desired to be, but I never changed my ways in order to get there for myself. And then really when I found keto, I found it at a really good time because I was having a lot of negative motivation in my life. Now let's define negative motivation. Basically, for me, it's just fear. It's what you fear happening if you don't make a change. And there is a lot of power that comes with fear. You could say that this negative motivation is fear, or rather, what is something that's going on that scares you so much that you are afraid not to make a change? I had a couple negative motivations when I first started out on keto. That really affected my weight loss journey, I think. One of them was that I did a stint in nursing school between my bachelor's and my master's, and I just saw a lot of health problems related to diabetes and just the amputations, the ulcers, the immobility. It really kind of reframed my view of what could actually happen if I didn't stop eating all the bad stuff. My second negative motivation came in the form of having all these student loans after graduating with my master's, and then needing to be able to find a job. Because I had read that, you know, it's hard for heavier people to find work because they're seen as lazier and less trustworthy, and, you know, people just make those assumptions about them. So they'd rather hire a skinny or healthy looking person rather than somebody who's overweight. You know, and that's just based on psychological things that I've read. So those two fear motivations were working for me. Also the fact that I was just in a really bad place in my life and I just needed something to change. My mother was sick, my parents were divorcing, you know, I had hit rock bottom and I just really needed some form of change. So, you know, along with that, it was like, if I can't find a job, how am I going to pay off all these student loans? You know, I'll never pay them off if I don't find a job in my field that I studied for. So, I mean, that was definitely one of the bigger motivations. And when people hear that, they go, really? That was one of your motivations for losing weight and sticking with it? Was that you wanted to find a job? Really? But yes, it was a fear that I wouldn't be able to find a job if I were overweight. So even though I really do try to be really positive on this channel, you know, I always tell you to adapt keto to your own lifestyle. I also can value that the negative motivation, you know, that fear of what could happen. That's something that's really valuable and more powerful, I think, than positive motivation of just, what do you want? I think we all want a lot of money, right? And what do we say we want most is just to win the lottery. So that's like a dream, right? You get the great benefit, but you do very minimal work. So when I do think of people who talk about success and things, you know, they say, you've got to just prioritize the work and then you'll get to the success. Sometimes you've got to prioritize the work of actually changing your lifestyle, and I think fear helps with that because it really kind of, you know, lights the fire under your butt and gets you moving a little bit. Because if you're just sitting there wanting the benefit, you're kind of just daydreaming about it, but you're not actually getting any work done. So I think a lot of negative motivation for people is like, you know, they want to be around for their kids. Like they feel this fear that they might, if they don't change their ways, they might not be around for very long to, you know, raise their kids. Or like if you took the, you know, losing weight for your wedding, you want to look great example, and you kind of flip it, you say, well, I do want to look great, but I also do not want to have pictures that I hate. You know, I don't want to spend all this money on wedding photos and not be happy with the way that I look. You know, that's going from more positive motivation to more negative motivation, thinking of that financial aspect and, you know, just regret and not losing the weight before the wedding kind of thing. So, I mean, negative motivation, it has a negative connotation with it, you know, a negative sense to it, but really it's just another way to look at motivation, using fear and what we don't want to happen. So when you think of it, what would you fear worse? You know, changing your eating habits, eating a little bit less, exercising a little bit more, or, you know, developing a really bad disease or not being there for your kids. Well, I think that's why keto is kind of attractive, is because we actually do like the food. Most people really like the food on keto. I love eating meat and vegetables and things, and I can make my sweet treats that are keto friendly. So that is a much better option for me, you know, day to day, to eat that kind of food, so that I can lose weight and maintain weight rather than worry about all of these problems that are out there because, you know, obesity is such an issue. Well, folks, this is going to be a shorter video today. I'm getting over being sick. I'm going through some personal stuff with an old friend, and I'm going to cut it there for today. But I do just want you to remember that, you know, it's good to have both positive motivation and negative motivation, but just make sure that whatever you're hanging on to, whatever you're trying to strive for, that, you know, it's something that's actually pushing you towards the end goal line. I do hope that you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys next time. My name's Allie. Have a good one. Bye.